Hi, I'm back. 20 degrees again today. Almost August. Oh well. So we have today, Friday, the 3rd of March, 1906. And it's an interesting diary entry, and we return a little bit to the topic of shyness. So here we go. Friday. Thank God I can finally write without rushing. It's only 9:45. Maria went to the Horse Grenadiers' dinner. I have already completely made my peace with the fact that I will not be going to dinners. Luckily, they don't ask me why, because those are the questions that scare me the most. What am I supposed to say? That they won't take me because I'm little? Or I could say that I have lessons and have to get up early and can't do it if I go to bed late. Today I went skating with Herr Welter. The ice was marvelous, though it was warm outside, but colder than yesterday when I skated without a coat. It's so much fun to skate only in your shirt. Herr Welter and I had a kinjal fight, just using short sticks. It was terribly amusing, but sometimes quite painful. For instance, yesterday I took a blow to the chest and when I fell really hurt my elbow, so it feels bad even today. We lunched at home because there was an early arithmetic lesson. It went very well. I rode alone in the evening and twice almost fell while jumping a barrier, but that's all right since I hadn't jumped for 3 years. I mean, I did jump at Olinskaya, but only over ditches, not barriers, and those are two different things. At first, I didn't really want to go riding, but then I started having fun and enjoying myself, especially when I took a barrier. But I have to admit that I really had butterflies in my stomach, and when I was leaning forward on the horse's neck, I chickened out a little. After dinner at that palace, I was involved in a little scandal. When I returned from tea and went to see GM, I found 2 men sitting with him. I thought there were 4. Officers from the Horse Grenadiers. Okay, sorry, I have to redo this. When I returned from tea and went to see GM, I found 2 men sitting with him. I thought there were 4. They were officers from the Horse Grenadiers Regiment. I opened the door, and when I saw them, I really took fright, closed the door, and went home, and Maria, the fool, yelled, "Coward!" Then Miss June came to scold me into going back, but I still didn't. 10 o'clock. So this seems a little mixed up because he's talking about dinner and then tea, and he talks about lunch earlier, but I still think the reference to that palace, well, it was either lunch or tea. I don't think it was dinner. Okay, so we find out a little bit about one of the things that bothers him when he's not taken to these dinners. Then if well-meaning people, maybe from the regiment, ask him why he didn't go, he doesn't know what to say. So he doesn't want to tell them that it's because he's too young. He's only 18 months younger than his sister, after all. So what is he supposed to say? He could tell them, whether it's true or not, he could tell them that he has to get up early the next morning. So that's a possibility, but yeah, I think most of us can relate to this. Somebody asks us questions and we're embarrassed by the real reason, by the real answer, and it's an awkward situation. Okay, the kinjal fight. So a kinjal is a dagger, and I had 2 of them at one time. Now I only have 1. So they're daggers from Central Asia, and they're part of the Cossack uniform. And if you ever see pictures of Nicholas II's convoy, his Cossack bodyguard, or he or Alexei dressed in the uniform of the convoy, you'll see that they have these daggers that go along with their uniforms. They can be quite large or they can be smaller. The one I have is, at the moment, is small. I used to have a military one, but I ended up selling it. So anyway, we're talking about fighting at close quarters. where you're within arm's reach, basically, of your opponent. So I don't know if this would have been considered part of Dmitri's military training, or it was just some of the roughhousing that he typically did with Herr Welter. But they were using sticks as daggers and fighting with each other, and sometimes it really hurt. I can vouch for that. I don't have to go all the way back to my childhood, just when my nieces and nephews were a little younger and they wanted to play sword fights with sticks. And boy, if your hand gets whacked, that hurts. But in this instance, it sounds like things actually went a little far, and Dmitri was hit so hard in the chest that it knocked him down and he hurt his elbow. So this was really roughhousing. Okay, interesting, his remarks about riding. He says he was riding alone, but I think probably under supervision. They were starting back up with teaching him how to be a good future cavalryman, and riding hunters. And it's interesting that he says that he hadn't ridden or he hadn't jumped barriers for 3 years. He'd done it at Olinskaya, but he hadn't jumped barriers for 3 years, so that would have made him 11. So why on earth would that have been the case? I don't know. Maybe they were just too much tumultuous years, or maybe once he moved to Moscow, that wasn't emphasized as part of his education, so he did it in Ilinskaya. But that was just, that was something different. That was just ditches. So he had butterflies in his stomach, and then he chickened out a little, whatever that means. And he would have a similar experience later after the revolution when he went fox hunting and when he was riding hunters for the first time in quite a while. And I've never done it, but it does sound like it would be a scary thing. But of course he ends up enjoying it, and he was definitely a horse person. And so now this little scandal. So we come to the topic of shyness. So he comes home from tea and he goes to see GM. GM and his wife, they had their own apartment. So maybe he went bursting into their apartment and he found GM was not alone. He had officers with him from the Horse Grenadiers Regiment, and Dmitri was so surprised that he closed the door and he says he took fright, but clearly he also took flight. And I'm not sure where Maria was, if she was in the room with the men or if she was outside and witnessed it, but she yells after him, "Coward." So typical brother and sister stuff. And then Miss June is scolding him, but he's just determined not to go back. And it seems like they didn't listen too much to Miss June anyway. So was it shyness? Were these the men that he was worried about possibly being asked why he wasn't going, why he wasn't going to the dinner? And he would have to come up with some answer for them that wasn't embarrassing. I don't know, but that was quite a reaction to just turn tail and close the door. A little scandal, as he puts it. So there's really nothing more to say about that. In the next diary entry of the 4th, we find out that one of these two men, he thought they were 4 when he first glanced in. One of these 2 men ends up having quite a tragedy overnight that Dmitri finds out about the next day. So come back for that. Bye.